Hey everyone. Didn't plan on doing a video tonight, but there's something I want to talk about. I can be a little reactionary at times, so I thought about it a little bit, and I won't lie. I'm probably gonna start weaning off of the Darkest Dungeon videos. Um, I'm slowly not enjoying the game anymore. I may be I may be viewing it wrong. Maybe I'm not understanding it, but I feel like Darkest Dungeon, well, Redhook, actively wants to keep going against what their players do. Just a short story about it. The style of gameplay change, I'm not a huge fan of like real traditional roguelikes. And the first Darkest Dungeon had choices that mattered, but I wouldn't ultimately call it a roguelike in the end, right? Your runs were significantly longer. You kept things after dungeons. It wasn't you played for 3 hours and then you were done. You lost everything. Not at all. So the first game just had punishing decisions. Darkest Dungeon 2 is an actual roguelike. So I am very biased from right from the get-go. So I don't want to discourage anyone who's a more fan of roguelikes than I am. However, I am just not a huge fan of roguelikes, and that really dampers on some of the stuff that I enjoyed about the first game and video games in general. But let me back up my statement about how it feels like Redhook doesn't exactly like how their players do things. I mentioned I've been reading books and looking into like video game design, story design, and stuff. And one of the biggest things I keep coming across is that show, don't tell. Now, you can't always do that, and it's not always applicable, and sometimes you have to tell. Like, it's not groundbreaking. Sometimes there needs to be instructions, there needs to be exposition, yada yada yada. So what does that mean in a video game world? Well, I recently put up my poll. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. But I asked, do you think Darkest Dungeon is trying to tell you how to play every character, or do you think it's just to add some spice to it? Because I feel like I can't even play Darkest Dungeon 2 casually anymore. Right from the get-go from my party, I'm already adapting. And I get that. Darkest Dungeon, the problem is it feels very Dark Souls-esque to me, where Dark Souls was like, we're a hard game, so we're going to make things harder unnecessarily. Like, mimics were fun, we're just going to add mimics everywhere. Or, for example, from Dark Souls to Dark Souls 2, hey, remember Curse from Dark Souls? When you die, you only get half your HP. Well, in Dark Souls 2, let's just reduce your HP every time you die and make the game incredibly difficult. Now, obviously in Dark Souls 2, there's mechanical ceiling and all that stuff, but I'm not going to talk about. But sometimes sequels take what they think their first game was all about, and sometimes they ratchet that up. And the first Darkest Dungeon, I feel they're like, oh, we're about making the best out of bad situations. Well, if every situation gives me is just bad from the get-go and it's all RNG based, it's kind of boring. It's not fun. Like, that'd be the first Darkest Dungeon saying, hey, we're pretty much just going to give you 8 characters, and half of them may be nigh useless because they're not going to have like any damage skills or increases. And yeah, go enjoy your already nerfed damage. So, for example, in the first Darkest Dungeon, they complained that people just stalled out fights and rounds to stress heal and heal. It's like, okay, I get you didn't want to do that. So what happened in Darkest Dungeon 2 was, you still had a few rounds left over, and if you calculated correctly, you could still get a heal in there, stress heal in there. And then they're like, oh, people are still healing and stress healing near the end of fights. Let's put caps on it. It's like, holy cow. Okay. So it's like, they don't know how to balance a video game, so they just keep nerfing the player. And this most recent patch with the trinkets, I'll review it tomorrow, but they're like, can you believe people were picking just damage, HP, and speed trinkets? Yeah, actually, I can. You know why? Because you need to kill things. It's just, I feel like Redhook is just being more, honestly, I feel like they're being moronic. They're just like, man, people are picking damage? Did we see that coming? Well, when your damage is 6 to 9 and some dude has 50 flippin' HP, yeah, you should have seen that coming, that people might want to do an extra 25% damage so they can do, 8 to 12 rather than 6 to 9. But then you get stupid paths like, they did nerf it, but they still didn't nerf the Hellion or Ravager. So you get like people who can do 6 to 10 damage, like fully upgraded, and then you get the Ravager Hellion who can still do like 14 to 27. It's like, wait, how are any of these numbers balanced? Redhook, honestly, I'm beginning to think their first game was accuracy by quantity. And a perfect example of that is paintball. So imagine when you go paintballing, you don't really most times fire one shot and get a hit, right? That'd be like precision accuracy. Essentially, what the first Darkest Dungeon may have been now, I wasn't there for the development, was they loaded up 10,000 rounds and they fired, and near the end of the day, they got like 10 hits, they got rid of the extra crap. And you could say, well, why can't they do that in Darkest Dungeon 2? And here's my second a little analogy. View Darkest Dungeon 1 as like Algebra 1, or we'll just say Math 1. And let's say Math 2 is obviously Darkest Dungeon 2. They kept a lot of the same ideas, characters, weapons, people. You know, it's not really too much of a stretch to see how you got from the first one to the second one, right? Imagine if they act like they forgot everything about Math 1. It's like, wait, what? Didn't you spend 6 years learning how to do Math 1? You're telling me you are barely bringing any of that along? You have to relearn how to do Math 1 and Math 2? I mean, a refresher's not bad, but they are almost seeming incompetent to balance, fix their basic systems, and understand damage. Like, it's blown me away that you have to force to play pass. They literally tell you how to play hero. Like, they're like, no. Like, this hero will literally be useless if you try to go against what we say. It's like, wait. So your trinkets are so bad, I can't make a player into what they want to be. And I guess the biggest thing you could counter argue is, well, they want you to adapt. They want you to adapt. I don't want to keep adapting to the creators because they don't know how to make a good game. Like, honestly, every patch that comes out, I'm lowering the bar for Darkest Dungeon. Like, there was actually a happy point 2 months ago where I was like, okay, the game seems like the damages are okay. There's a few stuff they need to tweak, need to fix relationships. This most recent patch, I just got through my hands there. I'm like, what the ever-loving crap are we doing here? It's like, I feel like they still haven't hit the point. They still try to reference DD1, but then go ahead with DD2. I just feel like they're caught halfway in every idea. And it's quite frankly making a trash game. I'm going to say it. I don't know how much more I'm going to play. I told myself a long while ago I wouldn't play a game that I dislike for views. I mean, it's not like I get a bajillion views already, but this isn't my career. This isn't even like a huge side income. And if I don't like Darkest Dungeon 2, I'm not going to play it. And quite frankly, I just find it frustrating. I find it frustrating that I'm constantly battling the creators in RNG. I get RNG from the first party comp, to what quirks they get right from the get-go that can be devastating, to what random trinkets fall into my lap, to what banter happens on the stagecoach, to what options I get at resistances and at creature dens. It's just so much RNG. And honestly, the first game I could say there was a lot of RNG, but it was manageable. And this one is just like you roll with the RNG. And quite frankly, I think that makes a worse game. Hades, Slay the Spire. Well, actually, wait. Slay the Spire is card one. What's the one I was thinking of? Enter the Gungeon. That's one. Other roguelikes that have a mechanical ceiling. If you're mechanically really good, yeah, bad RNG can ruin your run, but you can always make it up. Darkest Dungeon 2, if you're just not literally getting the stuff where all of your options are trash, I just feel like Redhook comes back and says, well, make the best of a bad situation. It's like, nah, screw you. It's like, stop depending on RNG. And I hate when they mention this could make a run. This could make a run. No, the RNG and the trinkets I should get and their appearing should not quote unquote make a run. Should they help a run? Sure. But it's not like, oh, I didn't get these 3 trinkets, or oh, this hero path wasn't available, so now I'm going to struggle. Or what happens if you just want to play Plague Doctor and not, oh, I don't know, have their DOTs be reduced by -2? Like, Physician on the Plague Doctor, you lose -2 to Blight and Bleed DOT. Yeah, imagining DOT with that, right? Or if you pick this hero path, -33% HP. Oh, by the way, you can't heal below 33% HP. So the Occultist has 21 HP. You know what 33% of 21 is? It's frickin' 7. And guess what? You have to be below 33. So you have to get to 6 HP before you can heal 33% HP. And guess what? That's only 6 to 7. You know how much enemies can do in intro areas? They can hit for like 6 to 10 easy. So you're telling me that I can go to Death's Door in 2 turns from the beginning of the game, but heal only 6 of that damage back. Like, where's your balancing? What is your thoughts? Percentages are dumb when that's all you do. All they do is throw around percentages and hope they work out in the end. And guess what? They don't. The combat, they simplified too hard, in my opinion. First Darkest Dungeon, I get it was way more complex, way more annoying, probably took way more balancing, but it was superior. I know some people say it may not be, but it's getting there. It's getting superior. Darkest Dungeon 2 is I just clicked a few buttons I am told to press now based on my hero class, and then I'm done. There's no preemptive healing. There's only reactionary healing. There's just no going to certain dungeons really for certain trinkets unless it's the one that shows. I mean, it's just their base ideas are bad in my opinion, and they're not going to get better. They're going to release more content, and that content may be engaging, but at the end of the day, their base ideas are built on a pile of crap. The relation system sucks. They're talking about also making that more RNG based by hiding it so you don't even necessarily know. And now I don't know how that's going to show up. Don't hold me to that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm very unsatisfied with Darkest Dungeon 2. It's I really feel like the creators, they quote unquote say they're listening to us, and then I feel like they punish you. They're like, oh, you were just picking damage and speed and stuff to get through the game because we nerfed damage. Well, now we're going to nerf that as well, and I didn't talk about the damage. It's like, wow, okay. You know what? I don't need to play a video game where the creators literally spit in my face for figuring out how to play their game. I don't want to be told how to play a video game. I want to play the game, and I want to figure out ways to do it. I don't know if I've played a game of recent where I felt so forced into like each path where it's like, well, if you pick this, that's all you can do. It's like there's special classes in video games, but you know that going up front, but each of those classes are like uniquely good. They don't feel like you're like destroying a class. Like I would have to go look at the Poet again on the Leper, but it's a worthless class, I believe. It's like minus 25% damage, and I think it was like what, heal and stress heal and stuff. It's just meant to be a tank, but like I'm on a turn limit, and I really can't out heal and out stress heal a lot of stuff that's going to be coming in. I don't know. It's kind of blah. And they have a lot of changes to make, but the problem is the lot of changes they need to make needs to give players choices again and not tell you how to play. So they're committing the cardinal sin of telling and not showing, and it's going to ruin their game. I don't want to hear that DD1 people are going to trash it on Steam. No. DD1 people will trash it on Steam, but people who even give this game a chance, if it releases with the current mechanics and the style it has now, I'm going to call it doesn't give it above a 70%. Yeah, I don't think it'll get above a 70. I know if I bought it on Steam, even with all 5 acts completed and the roaming bosses, I would actually give it a thumbs down right now. It's just bad. Like, why would I spend $30 on this game when I can buy the first Darkest Dungeon and have significantly way more fun? Once again, that might be a personality choice. It might be a preference, but I wouldn't waste money on Darkest Dungeon 2. So yeah, the videos of Darkest Dungeon 2 will trickle out slower. I will do updates on what they update and see if they're fixing the game. I'll give the game a few tries, but in all honesty, I'm just not happy with it.